exclusively. Sharanam, being sheltered. Muni, the sage. Nisanga, without association. Yet he traveled. Kronim, the earth. Anagni, without fire. Anikitanaha, without shelter. The sage Kadama replied, accepted silence as a vow in order to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and take shelter of Him exclusively. Without association, he traveled on the surface of the earth, of the globe, as a sannyasi, devoid of any relationship with fire or shelter. Here the word anagnir, aniketanaha, are very significant. The sannyasi should be completely detached from fire and any residential quarters. Grihastha has a relationship with fire either for offering sacrifice or for cooking. But the sannyasi is freed from these two responsibilities. He does not have to cook, offer fire for sacrifice, because always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he has already accomplished all ritualistic performance of religion. Aniketana means without lodging. He should not have his own house. He should depend completely on the Supreme Lord for his food and lodging. He should travel. Mona means silence. Unless one becomes silent, he cannot think completely about the pastimes and activities of the Lord. It is not that because one is a fool and cannot speak nicely, therefore takes the vow of Mona. Rather, one becomes silent so that people will not be disturbed. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that a rascal appears very intelligent as long as he does not speak. But speaking is a test. The so-called silence of a silent person is Swami indicates that he has nothing to say. He simply wants to beg. As the silence adopted by Kadama and Muni was not like that, he became silent for relief from nonsensical talk. What is called a Muni when he remains grave and does not talk nonsense. Maharaj Ambarish set a very good example. Whenever he spoke about the pastimes of the Lord. Mona, necessitates refraining from nonsensical talking and engaging in talking, facilitating the pastimes of the Lord. In that way one can chant and hear about the Lord in order to perfect his life. Vrata means that one should take a vow, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, amanantvam adamvitam, without hankering for personal respect and without being proud of one's material possession. Ahimsa does not mean violent. There are 18 processes for attaining knowledge and perfection, and by this vow, Kadama Muni accepted all the principles of realization. Omagyan midandas yaganandana shalakaya chakshurvitamina tasmai sigurave namam. Sri Chaitanya manovishtam stavitamina bhutale svayam rupagadamayam dadati svapadantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama. So, he is, Kadama Muni, is a classical Vedic sage who lives alone, who has no home, and who doesn't cook. This is, of course, far from our present situation. We need food by all circumstances, and Prabhupada accepted food on the minute. It was exactly the time when he wanted to eat, 1 o'clock, not 1 minute later, otherwise Prabhupada would become upset. Because he had his service, his schedule, all day mapped out. And so prasadam took place at that time, and he wanted to eat healthy, like he liked the chapatis when they were blown up. He didn't like chapatis when they're not blown up. They're not mature, not so easy to digest. And so I remember Hare Krishna told me that one time he made a chapati for Prabhupada that was not blown up. And Prabhupada said, take this back to the kitchen, bring me another one. And he brought another one, it was not blown up. So Prabhupada, what's the matter with you? He said, Srila Prabhupada, the chapatis don't blow up, there's something wrong with the flour or something. And Prabhupada got up and he went into the kitchen and he made a chapati. And it didn't blow up. In Hare Krishna, he giggled behind the hand, you know. Prabhupada didn't like that at all. Prabhupada didn't like that. He made another chapati, blew up like this, and he took the hot chapati and threw it into Hare Krishna's face, and then walked away. Later, as time went on, he refused to take prasadam from him, actually. There's a whole story about it, but I'm not talking about it. It's not a very fortunate story. But he refused prasadam to take any offering from him. And because he was in a bad way. So anyway, normally sannyasis depend on householders to feed them. And my experience is, I'm not a sannyasi, but I don't have really a place. I travel. I have a place in Vrindavan, but I'm hardly there. I travel and preach and sing, and somehow or other the prasadam is on my table. Not in time, sometimes it takes some time, but altogether it's there. And so I find when traveling and preaching, you don't need much. You don't need much because everything is supplied. And there's a room there, there's a bathroom there, there's some prasadam, and then there's facility to preach. And so what more do we need actually? That we can preach Krishna consciousness. As long as we can preach, there's a time then the body cannot move anymore. But I pray that I can preach as long as possible and speak about Krishna consciousness. Now, there are so many anatas, as it says here, and one of them is to talk nonsense. Now, I wanted to actually talk about this a little more yesterday. I started about the list of anatas that were given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sikh Samrita, in his Sikh Samrita. So this is very significant, and listen very attentively. I didn't get to that. I moved into another direction. But he says initially, demons inside. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sri Chaitanya Siksamrita describes the demons killed in his Vrindavan pastimes and the anatas, unwanted things, for which they may be associated. Now, I personally don't understand very often why a particular demon is associated with a particular pastime. But I will find out. I will write Burjan and Bhanu Swami, and there's some like Mukunda Datta. They're scholarly people, and I'm not a scholarly person. I'm a city preacher, basically speaking. I can preach in the city, but otherwise, I'm not a scholarly person. And I will ask a scholarly person, which I always do, if there's some question, that why did Bhaktivinoda Thakur associate Putana with a pseudo-guru? Or why is Sakatasura, the cart demon, carrying the burden of a cartload of an old and new bad habits? Well, I can see that. He carries the burden of a cart load of old and new habits, lethargy and vanity. Lethargy is there, that we are lethargic. Sometimes we don't want to get out of bed, and sometimes we are attracted by vanity. I mean, the main place for vanity is Facebook, where everybody talks about himself. And a lot of people talk about themselves and showing what a nice body they have, or how they're eating all kinds of food together with friends, and there's no end. Facebook is vanity bhavan. There's also positive things there. There's preaching there. I do myself, put some material there, and sometimes I learn it, I hear something, I learn something, but there's a lot of vanity involved. And so vanity means that we are attached to some uses, whatever it may be. And so it is there in everyone. Listen to these Anatas, this pseudo-guru, that we think ourselves to be a great spiritual master, but we are not. We are small guys. And somehow or other Krishna may be kind and speak through our mouths, because by the end of the day, it is the super soul. Sarvasya chahamridi sannivishtu matasmiti jnanamapunam cha. If Krishna doesn't want us to speak, he doesn't allow us to speak. There was I don't know if I told you, in my boarding school there was this man, this boy, who prepared his final lecture, his final leaving. There was when we left our boarding school, which was a really nice school, everybody had to make a little speech. All the teachers were there, parents were there, and so most people didn't say much. I said, well, I'm glad to be out of here, somebody said, which was not very polite. So he was puffed up to the extreme. And I had to live in the same room as him, which was a pain, because I'm just, anyway. So he studied his lecture that he would give his speech. And I saw him in front of a mirror. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day. And on and on and on. How wonderful and how great, and how essentially he is so happy that he came here, etc., etc., etc. So this went on for hours. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. He was rehearsing his television facial expressions, so to say. And finally the day came that he spoke. And he was a guy that sits always in the first bench. The guys in the first bench, they're the guys who are, they want to please the teacher, they want to be the best. And I have to admit, I was sitting in the last bench. That's where the bad boys sit. And so people hated him, because he knew everything better and was always teaching everybody. If you did something wrong, he said, that's wrong. So he had a nerve. And so he spoke. And he said, as he was rehearsing, ladies and gentlemen, with a smile, today is the day that ladies and gentlemen, today is the day. So he went back a step and again tried. 3 times, 4 times, another one, something. On the last time, ladies and gentlemen, today is the day. And Krishna did not allow him to speak. Krishna just switched him off. And so he said, today is the day. And he fell from the podium, We all clapped, And then he sat down beside me. And I said, man, I didn't know you have such a sense of humor. So I really rubbed salt into the wound, yes? I rubbed salt into the wound. So Krishna can do anything. He can just shut you off. He can make you a speaker, or from one moment to another, he can turn you into a mumbling fool. Krishna can do that. We are completely depending on Krishna, for everything. It's not, somebody may say, it is my cane that is scratching. But that's also true, but the cane is moved by a person who is scratching. And the person cannot do this without being empowered by the super soul to do that. So it's, unless Krishna is giving, we can do nothing. We cannot digest our food. We cannot even laugh. We cannot cry. Everything depends on Krishna at every moment. And so if you see that somebody is doing wonderful, like so many of my godbrothers, they do wonderful things, then I can understand that he has Krishna's mercy. Like I explained before, that every one is a light bulb in this great electricity house of Krishna. And Krishna can turn, he just puts his mouth like Prithu does, and I can shine for a moment. And then Krishna says, all right, now go back into your hole. And so Krishna can increase the current, that we can speak better or speak worse. Most men, at least in the Western world, they are attracted to a beautiful woman. And they marry a woman for her beauty. And every time they go out with her to some meeting, or they say, don't speak, don't say anything. Because as soon as she would speak, everybody would understand that she is a fool. That's foolish. She can't speak, but she's very beautiful. She said, don't speak, don't speak, don't speak. He's a professor. And he takes his wife to some meeting with professor, some dinner or something. He said to his wife, please do me a favor. Because as soon as she speaks, it becomes clear that she's foolish, that she's a fool, right? So unless she speaks, what Prabhupada gives the example, Chanakya Pandit said, you cannot understand whether somebody is learned or not. Whether he knows he has to say something or not. And most people don't have anything to say. I give an example. Was it water? Here. I give an example. Who has heard about the Rolling Stones? Lift up your hand. Rolling Stones. It's a music group. No. You have heard. I've heard. Super famous, but materialistic. So Keith Richards is the main player. And he was asked in an interview, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life? He was asked by a magazine. And he said, what a stupid question. He said, meaning of life means to live. Meaning of life means just to live. And everybody who says different, he's a fool. So that means everybody who says no, it's not to live, it's to serve Krishna, he's, in his opinion, a fool. Why is he saying that? Because he's a fool. He sees the other things, this person's fool, that person. He laughs about everybody except himself. That is the most foolish thing to say. What is the meaning of life is just to live. That's like every dog. Every dog, what is the meaning of his life? To live. That's all. He lives and dies. Period. No advancement unless you throw him a little chapati. He can't make advancement, unless we do something for him. Most animals, their life is useless unless they give. Like we have these cows, for example. They give milk to Krishna, and the milk is offered, and the cow is highly beneficial. Therefore, the cow is a very beneficial animal. You can drink horse milk. I drink it all. Horse milk and camel milk, and I tried all these. And sheep milk I tried in Greece, and then there's goat's milk is there. There's so many. And I heard that even some people, they drink pig's milk in some areas of the world, in Africa. So, but any one of these milks you cannot offer to Krishna. You can only offer the milk of the cow, which shows that the cow is a very special animal, that Krishna doesn't accept the milk from a camel, from an ass, from a donkey, or whatever. He wants only the milk from a cow, because the cow is a divine living being. It is designed by Krishna in such a way that she is 100% beneficial. Even when you when your finger, you may have an open wound on your finger, and you get in contact with any type of stool, including human, it gets an infection. Even your own, if you don't wash your hand. I mean, I use, particularly for that purpose, a bar of disinfectant soap, because it's highly infectious, even human. But cow stool is all good. You can wash your baby, you can clean the temple, you can, it's antiseptic. The urine of a cow, highly beneficial. The hide of the cow, If the cow dies naturally, then you can make leather, not otherwise. And for shoes, leather is the best, because it is breathing, but not the leather acquired by violence. But so the cow even gives the leather. And the carcass you can give to the animals, or we dig. I don't know what they do here, but we used to bury our cows, as they're not being, dogs are coming and ripping a piece out of her or something. Bury them in the ground. And you can plant a tree on it. You can plant a tree on it, and the tree lives on that carcass of the cow. So it's extremely useful animal. And you can use it for pulling. A cow in Vrindavan, when I came in the beginning, I wanted an Almira. And the chowkidar said, well, I get you a bullock cart. And that bullock cart was trained, the bullock was trained to go to Mathura and back. That's all. That's all. Another, if you want to transport something to Agra, you have another bull. You have another bull. Every bull knows this particular kind of, and one guy sits on top and he falls asleep. The bullock cart, and when it reaches what's this, Mathura or something, then he stops. And the man wakes up and says, all right, now. And he tells them, go to the right, go to the left, Siddha. You can tell this to cows, they can understand this. Horses cannot. They're not so intelligent. You have to pull to the left side or to the right side, And if you want to go faster, you have to kick your heels. There's even some sort of a thorn there for this purpose, because they're dull. They're friendly, but they're stupid. They're not very intelligent. And cows are very intelligent. I've seen on the internet, the farmer, he closes the latch. And then the cow comes from inside with the tongue and wraps it around and pulls the latch out. There's not one thing that this can be done by monkeys. I open my latch 30 times a day, in my veranda. And inside, they can smell it. It's the fruits there and grains there and chapatis there and whatnot. But they've never, ever been able to open the latch because they're not that intelligent. They're not intelligent. Cows are, Cows. On the internet you can see there's a cow, she wants to drink milk. So with her horn, she pushes down the pump and then goes and drinks. And then again she uses her horn to pump. And I've seen a monkey doing that. Cows can do that. They're intelligent, much more intelligent than people think. They say a stupid cow in Germany. She's just a stupid cow. They're not stupid at all. They're very intelligent, And cows they have an enormous capacity to heal. If you have depressions, in Holland, you hire a cow for 1 hour. It costs you $100. And then you can go to the cow, and the cow comes to you, she cuddles with you, and after 1 hour, you feel relieved. And people come every day. They pay a fortune, $3,000 a month, to associate with a cow. They feel relieved from their anxiety. She's a mother, So what a useful animal it is. How useful a cow is. That it can relieve a person from depression even, And where there are cows, Prabhupada says there are no ghosts. There are no ghosts. Cows go away where there are ghosts. They're protecting a place from ghosts, cows. And so many things we can say about the cows. Now the only question is, how did I get there? How did I start talking about the cow? Anybody knows? I lost track. Which happens when you go so far out. Huh? What? Shakatasura, yes, I see that. So anyway, Srinivata, false pride. Now see, everybody has some false pride, which comes from material scholarship, which leads to bogus philosophies. I mean, these scholars write one book after another because they want to show their intellectual prowess. They want to show their prowess, Their whole life, they study. Like yesterday we heard about this Solzhenitsyn, right? Solzhenitsyn, remember? Did I say yesterday about Solzhenitsyn? Famous Russian writer, very religious, deep religious writer. He was in a concentration camp, Gulag, archipelago Gulag. And in this book, there's some amazing things which are very Krishna conscious. So he said, when I was young, I heard old people saying the reason why Russia is suffering so much under communism is because people have forgotten God. People have forgotten God. And then he said, I studied every book about the Russian Revolution. I studied every piece of literature. I interviewed many people. For many years, 50 years of my life, I in fact wrote 8 books on the effects of the Russian Revolution. Why 60 million people were killed. I tried to find out. And now, at the end of my life, I honestly say there's no better explanation as what I heard 50 years ago, that all this is happening to us because people have forgotten God. So these people were already there. He could have accepted that conclusion 50 years ago, but he had to study and study and study and study to come just to the same conclusion that his grandmother told him 50 years before, right? So they get sidetracked in so many ways by false pride, and not just scholars. We have this false pride, we are proud of something, nala kuvera and manigriva, arrogance, pride, which comes from puffed up prestige, which is rooted in madness for wealth. So we find this arrogance in us. Sometimes people are so arrogant. One previously famous preacher in ISKCON, he was very good at preaching, but people knew he was really, really puffed up. And so he was interviewed in the Vatican, not in the Vatican, in Rome, by national TV. And of course, whatever is a national, the Vatican hears it. They're watching everything that's going to be preached in Italy. And so he was asked by a journalist, and said, now, what is your position? Are you representing God? He said, yes, I'm the representative of God. And so far so good. Then the journalist said, but Jesus is also the representative of God. What is the difference between you and Jesus? And his answer was 2,000 years. And that was such an incredible, preposterous statement. And not more than 6 weeks he fell, and he was never seen again. You know, it was just such an offense to elevate himself on that level, and I knew he was not. You know, I mean, what is he trying? Who is he trying to fool? You know, so you see, this is there. Gross materialistic intelligence, ignorance of knowledge. You can go through all these qualities: brutality, treachery, intercommunal discord among Vaishnavas stands for extinguishing the forest fire. Lusty inclinations, desire for gain and honor, disturbance of religious principles, interference with religious people by those who are atheists, indifference towards Krishna, because caused by pride, because of one's status of position, demigod worship, or thinking you are the supreme, thinking that spiritual life can be enhanced by intoxication. There was one devotee, I will not name names, I have given up this idea of saying who it is, but there was one devotee who was a servant of Prabhupada, and he said to another devotee who is not implicated, he said to this devotee, Prabhupada has some back pain, and he said he would like to use some bang to massage his back. Can you get me some bang? And he said, yes, no problem. 1 tola costs 20 rupees. And he got him that. And one day he became, and Prabhupada realized that he was smoking bang. Prabhupada became very angry with him. So one time he was so intoxicated There's a famous case, he was so intoxicated that he completely took his clothes off right in front of Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada became really angry and chased him out of the room. Now, after that, somebody asked Prabhupada, how could he commit such an offense? Now he's gone. Will you forgive him? And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, Lord Nityananda's mercy is unlimited. So nice, you know. Prabhupada said, yes, I will forgive him. If he repents, you know, if he says, I'm sorry. You know, you have to say, I'm sorry. You have to first, 4 steps, I spoke about it before. First, you have to realize it was bad. Second of all, you have to feel remorse, you know, that you feel sorry, you know. Then you have to do something, you have to repair the damage, right? In this way, to go to Prabhupada, apologize and give Prabhupada a gift or something, or do some special seva for him. And then there can be reconciliation. These are 4 steps if we make a mistake. Like if I take your money, of course we don't have money. Whose money? Somebody has money? Somebody must have some money. Okay, if I steal some money from you, right? And then we don't see us after some time, and you look at me after, then I see you again, and you are still angry with me. So why are you so angry? Come on. You know, nobody, Krishna says that he's the owner of everything. It is not your money, it is Krishna's money. And come on, take it easy. You know, why are you so hung up on this old story? So you will not be happy. But if I say, now I took this money from you, I'm sorry, first of all. I feel really bad, too. And third, I want to give you this money back. And please excuse me. Then you say, all right. Now we can sing and dance in kirtan. You see, there has to be these 4 steps. Otherwise, there will be no forgiveness, ultimately. You see, so. Then, intoxication. So he took his clothes off and he Prabhupada threw him out of his room, understandably. And then there's rescuing the truths of Krishna consciousness is shown from being swallowed by impersonalism, by Nanda Maharaj. Of course, he's not an impersonalist, but he was swallowed by Vidyadhara. And so by freeing him, it's like freeing somebody who is swallowed by impersonalists. Shakachura, killing the concept demon, getting the jewel that was stolen by him, proneness toward acquiring name and fame, and desire for senseless enjoyment under the plea of devotion. I find this quality in me. Everybody finds some of these qualities, you have to admit. Nobody can say he is not prone to acquire some sort of recognition. Aristasura, pride arising from indulging in false religion, invented by cheaters, that you say, you give me some money and I will show you God. It's a classical example. You know, when we arrived in Delhi in the very beginning, Connaught Place, the place where everybody met, they came from Europe in Delhi, and behind every pillar there was somebody waiting for you and said, oh, my dear child, I've been waiting for many, many lives and now you're here. He starts crying and he embraces you and he takes you for a ride. He wants your money. That's all. That's all what it is about, the transaction. He just poses to be your spiritual master that waited for many lifetimes because he wants to remove the dollars from your pocket by the end of the day, right? That's what's happening. So the feeling that I'm a great devotee and your spiritual master, we are very insignificant. Whatever service we may do may be nice in our own estimation, but actually it is so little. For millions of years we have been in the material world, abusing the body, abusing others, abusing material nature. And then we make a little bit of advancement and then we think, I'm a great devotee. You know, no, small, we're small devotees, you know. And let everybody else be a big devotee, fine. But as far as ourselves is concerned, we should not be very proud of ourselves. There's nothing to be proud about. Prabhupada we can be proud about. We can be proud about the Hare Krishna movement. We can be proud of devotees. But for ourselves we should not. Deep in ourselves we should know that I'm just, by the mercy of Krishna and Prabhupada, I'm alive and I can do some seva. Vyomasura, this is the last demon, associated with thieves and other rascals, and with people who put themselves forward as avatars. You see, this is very common. One life member approached me one time when I was at one stage the GBC in Vrindavan and Andhra together with Gopal Krishna Maharaj, long time, 30 years ago or something. And he came and he told me, he was crying. He wanted to talk to Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He was not there, so he was crying. He told me that he gave, he was in Bangalore, and there was one famous guru, and he gave who claims to be God. And he's dead now. And so in a darshan, he saw this couple coming all the way from Delhi, and he had a son, and he said, I would like to have your son, I would like to train him. So after 1 year, the parents saw him, and they knew there was something wrong with him, very wrong. And as time went on, the child finally told his parents that he was grossly abused, sexually abused. And then later on, so many people came forward with the same story, that he put himself forward as an avatar, but actually he's just a child molester. This is the most horrible thing one can think of, you know. And it is so many things. Even Ranat Maharaj's book, somebody tried to establish him as an authority, but actually wanted to seduce him, right? You know that story. And so now, whatever tendency may be in us, you have a menu Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives of different kind of anatas. This is how you have to see that. You know, this is a menu of anatas. Pick and choose in privacy. One of the anatas you have, or many of you have, right? And then what you do about it. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, and this is so important, the devotee who worships the holy name should first petition the Lord for the strength to cast out all these unfavorable tendencies, and should pray thus before Lord Hari on a daily basis. On a daily basis. This is so important. But this point he makes there, he says these are all the different anatas, pick and choose. There's a whole smorgasbord, you know how they call it, when they pull out a big piece of wood and there's so many things on it. You can take this, that. There's a whole smorgasbord, it's a Swedish expression, of anatas. And we have to recognize the anatas in us. And we should pray to Lord Krishna, he says, on a daily basis, you know, to Lord, write down in private for yourself what you feel after studying this, what is my anatta, or what are my anattas. And then pray for the Lord, my dear Lord, please help me to remove these anattas. This is a manual. It's a manual. You agree? You understand manual? The computer, this is a manual how to deal with anattas in ourselves by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Then he says, by doing this regularly, the devotee's heart will eventually become purified. Sri Krishna has killed a number of demons which may rise in the kingdom of our heart. So in order to destroy these demons, a devotee must cry very humbly before the Lord and admit the defects. And then the Lord will purify him from all contamination. It's such a wonderful thing. I tried yesterday to get into it, but I stopped at the card demon. I didn't go any further. But it's so important to understand this, that yes, anatta is there because every human being, as Prabhupada says, I want to read to you this, where is this? Fault and glory. Pandit Haridas, it is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita, just Adi Lila 8.62. There it says, Pandit Haridas had great faith in Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Therefore, he took great satisfaction in knowing about their qualities and pastimes. Then, Vaishnavira guna grahi na dekha ye dosha kaya mano vakye kare Vaishnava santosha. I hope there's no Bengalis in the back room and they hear my Bengali. It must be a joke. He always accepted, now he talks about this devotee, he always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never find fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy the Vaishnava. Then Prabhupada's purport, wonderful purport. Adi Lila 8.62. If you have a note, make a note of it. It's very worth to study that one. He says, it's a qualification of a Vaishnava that he's a Doshadashi. He never sees others' fault. Of course, every human being has both good qualities and faults. Therefore it says, Sajjana jana gunam ichanti dosham ichanti parama. Everyone is a combination of faults and glory. Such an important sentence. You may see the fault in somebody else, but what about yourself? And I may see the fault in somebody else, but what about my faults? Therefore, even the Bible, Jesus said, you see the speck of dust in your brother's eye. You don't see the beam of wood in your own. You hypocrite. He's chastising. He said, you hypocrites, first take out the speck of dust in your own eye, then you can see properly. In fact, you won't even see the beam in your brother's eye if you do that. So everyone, Prabhupada says, is a combination of faults and glories. You know, there was a woman who was she had an illegitimate relationship with some other man. This is a story from the Bible. So in the old Oriental, Middle East, Oriental culture and religion, such a person is stoned. They put her into a hole up to here, covered with the sand, she can't move, and then she's stoned, and it's a crack her skull. And that's in the old Muslim also. This is still happening today by ISIS. And so she was in that position. So everybody picked up a stone to kill her. And at that time, Jesus came and he said, right, he who is free from sin, he should throw the first stone. And everybody thought about it. Free from sin, and they all left. You see, this is the point, you know, because everybody realized, I myself am not clean. You know, so before you throw the first stone, think about that. You know, it's a very important lesson. Everyone is a combination of faults and glory. But a Vaishnava, a Superman, accepts only a man's glories and not his faults. Because they're there, you can find them. If you really look at it, you can see. Even Prabhupada said, even the moon has spots. Why are you looking for the spots on the moon? The moon is wonderful. It gives you beautiful light in the autumn season, or whenever, I don't know, when the biggest day for the Taj Mahal is, when the moon comes out and the whole thing is glittering like anything. So he says, but a Vaishnava woman accepts only man's glories and not his faults, for flies seek source where honey bees seek the honey. The flies go to the source. There is something, I found something. And Prabhupada said, the sieve says through the needle. You know what a sieve is? When you have tea, you use a tea sieve so that you separate the leaves from the water. It's called a sieve. What do you call a sieve? What do you call that? Sieve? Yeah. He said the sieve is telling the needle you have a hole. But so the sieve has hundreds of holes. So Prabhupada gave us an example. The sieve is preaching to the needle, you have a hole. But he is made out of holes. You see? Nice. Highest Pandit never found fault with Vaishnava, but always considered only his good qualities. And this is a divine mission. I mean, sometimes our society, unfortunately, is surrounded by people who see only fault. It's the only fault, you know, this fault, that fault, that fault, that fault. And Prabhupada says this is the gathering place of crows who want to hear that. The crows gather where there is rubbish. They want to see the rubbish. Flies also. If there's a place completely clean, flies go away. Why are there so many flies? Because the place is not clean. You know, so that's the mentality. And I advise all of you, I do the same thing, to study in Chaitanya Charitamrita this verse, Adi Lila 862, and then study the advice of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how to deal with anatas. That are in each and every one of us, there is some anatta, unless somebody comes to the platform of that he is pure, purified, is a pure devotee. Prabhupada had no anatas, but anybody else, you know. And so let's be busy with our own anatas before we cast the dice on anybody else. This is an important lecture for all of us, including myself. You know, I'm preaching to myself and I give this lecture also. Very important. And although Bali Maharaj did not bow down in front of Vamandev, Vamandev understood that he wanted to bow down, but he couldn't because he was in the presence of the demons. He's the king of the demons. At the same time, his spiritual master is there, who is demonic. So in his mind, he offered his obeisances to Vamandev, and Vamandev accepted. Because God sees only the good. He sees, every living being comes to this material world and Krishna is planning how to get him back. Because there's parts and parcels, he wants to have them back. And so he has a program for everybody. Somebody has to take birth because he was very arrogant in one life and rich. Next life he becomes a pauper. Or somebody, he was very, this anatta, or he fall into this position. But Krishna is working on us, on each and every one. And so if we find fault in somebody, we should think of our own faults, and we should not try to convince a person unless I'm in a position of authority, and understand that there's not much I can do about a person except giving him basic things, holy name, prasadam, harinam, Krishna conscious books, that we can do. You know, but beyond that, he has to do the work. You know, you can tell him, but he has to do the work. So, Hare Krishna, this was my last day here. Tomorrow morning I will go. So, be patient. It's only another 20 hours or so, and I'm gone. It was wonderful. I had great pleasure being here and meeting you all, and have kirtan with you and you with me, and be able to give some lecture and this and that. It was nice. And Hare Krishna. I wish all of you that you do me one favor, you pray to Lord Nishingadev to save this poor Prithu Das. That would be good. I pray for you, you pray for me, we make a deal. In this way everybody is benefited. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. It was our great fortune that initially Prabhuji said only 2 weeks, mercifully stayed for a longer time so that valuable association to